Hello, 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 hello. Welcome. I am Sylvia Hayes, and you are watching Good News at Primetime. Today, we have a fantastic show. We're going to be talking about who are the laws for? Who are the laws for? They make laws, but everybody doesn't have to abide by those laws. So we're going to talk about some of the laws and who are they for. We also going to talk about, well, I just want to mention to you that voting registration is November the 11th. So be sure you get out there and vote because right now they are actually purging some of the voters. So if you haven't voted in a while, be sure you check to see if you're still on the ballot, not on the ballot, but on the roll. Because they don't want you to vote. Make sure you have your ID because they're going to be checking ID. And if your name have changed, make sure that you have checked that out and have it correct. You move, make sure you have the correct address. As a matter of fact, voting are going to start soon too. So make sure you have the right precinct because they have been changing precincts for people to go vote at. Make sure you have the right place before you go. Otherwise, if you go in there 5 minutes till and you're at the wrong place, you don't miss your opportunity to vote unless you're voting early. But you can vote early. You have to request your absentee ballot. They're not going to be sending them out like they used to. You got to request your absentee ballots. So do that if you don't have time to go vote. Request your absentee ballot, okay? And register to vote and vote because it is so important. We have so many things online that's need to be taken care of. So many things. I mean, we got women's rights, voting rights, abortion laws, all kinds of things, gun laws. We got all kinds of laws and regulations, rules and regulations, shall I say, that's on the line. So we need to make sure we have the right person in office who will represent us in the right way. Okay. So voting is so important. It is so important. And you don't want Orange Man in again. And because he still have his goons out there doing the things that he wanted him to do. I don't understand why they still honoring this man and he's as crooked as he want to be. But in any case, get out there and register to vote. Good news at prime time. I don't know why I keep saying that, but the book, Power Thoughts, Empowering You to Be Successful in Life. Be sure you pick up your copy because it is so powerful. It will enhance your life. There's so many good things in there, and that's my book. Yes, Power Thoughts, Empowering You to Be Successful. Okay, be sure you pick up your copy. You can go to lulu.com and order your book, Power Thoughts by Sylvia Hayes, or you can go to my website, AandKProductions.com, AandKProductions.com, and pick up your copy of Power Thoughts. So with that being said, one more thing I got to talk about, the water in Mississippi. I just found out now they have a chlorine spill in the water, so it's still not safe to drink. And we've been trying to get water filters for the people in Jackson, Mississippi, because the water is so contaminated. So if you can, please go to the website lifebeyondwater.org, lifebeyondwater.org, and order a water filter for one of the residents. Okay. The filter is only $35. And if you want to get several of them, you can. What we're doing, we're placing the orders and having them sent to a designated area in Jackson, Mississippi. Then we go down there, take the filters, and distribute them to people. A couple of weeks ago, they went down there and took some to the high rise for the senior citizens. And so more people are going to be getting these water filters. Please donate a filter if you can. 1, 2, 10. If you have an organization just want to help people out, please do so because that water is being contaminated. And as you know, Jackson is what? 80% black. and they ain't caring of nothing about, taking care of these people. These babies are getting sick. Older people can't drink this bad water. You don't want this to be happening. So please, if you can, lifebeyondwater.org and order a water filter. It will be sent directly to Jackson, Mississippi, and one of the residents there will get it because they need the clean water. Okay? Now, with that in mind, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Mr. Reggie Drummer. Hey, Reggie, how you doing?
I'm doing great there, Miss Sylvia. And to the good news audience, I'm feeling good, man. It's a beautiful day out here. We're excited. There's a lot going on. Like you said, the water down in Mississippi. Also, the hurricane coming up on the coast. Uh, pandemics, and pandemoniums all around us. So we got to be ready. Uh, and one of my top subjects tonight, the law. Man, this is incredible, man. We can we're going to talk a little bit about the law all around, but specifically the law here in America. But we definitely want everybody to get ready to comment, like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification button over here at Square Mile Media Atlanta. We want to get those subscribers up, get those views out there. So we really excited. But I always like to go into the definition of law.
Okay.
I guess this is Webster definition. Law, a rule of conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized as binding or enforced by a controlling authority. That's a rule of conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized as binding or enforced by a controlling authority. That's what law is.
Mm. Okay. Dang.
I got to throw this, and I throw this out there too. The purpose of law. This is the purpose
Uh-huh.
of the law. I mean, to maintain order and promote justice. And guess who that law is for? It's for the members of society to uphold the law. But what we talking about tonight, what happens when those laws promote and spread discrimination and bigotry? That means the law is not fair. Uh, the justice is not fair. And that's what we have to look at here this evening. Uh, but that's just my first thoughts. We know we got some more.
Yeah, yeah, it is. As I look back, there were laws and policies basically against black people. One of the, I don't know if it was a law or policy that black people couldn't walk around with no money in their pockets.
Mm,
If they did, then they go to jail. And then they get to work for free for the man to become more wealthy.
mm,
So was that a law or was that a policy? Some of them go hand in hand. It was this policy and they made it a law. you know Determined it to be, well, they say this law. So it's a lot of stuff that go on. Even redlining, that's a policy. It's not a law. No, it's a policy. So the laws and policies, they're gonna go hand in hand with this discrimination. And sometimes it's just a personal preference by the person who's making these decisions. It's not a law. It's not a uh, city policy. It's just a personal preference, and you have to go by it or suffer the consequences.
yeah.
You know.
Well, one of the last things we put out was the controlling authority. Okay, the controlling authority. When we look at, and let's just look at here in America, prior to, we can say, before the colonizers came, what was the law? I mean, what did the indigenous people have for law? Most laws are simple: do unto others as you do unto yourself. Take
Mm-hmm.
care of yourself, take care of the planet, take care of Mother Nature. Uh, those are simple laws. Those are rules of engagement of society. But when the colonizers changed all that. The rule of law became uh, hunt down the Native Americans, exterminate them, rape them, take whatever you can. That was the law. You could
Mm-hmm.
talk to, if you were able to go back into when the colonized, the days of what we call the pilgrims, you couldn't tell them people they wasn't doing the right thing. They were Christian people. They followed the Protestant philosophy, and yet they infringed danger and disaster on people, mass genocide based on the law. And the law was what? Take over. And then you fast forward uh, during America's early day, before they started bringing black and brown people over. Well, they had a law against the Indians, or what we call the Indians, or the original Americans, the indigenous people. They had laws that were set up to keep them under control. And then when we came on board, black and brown people, you know, they had, the laws that they had amongst themselves were just regular laws of the English. Again, similar to that of indigenous people. Uh, Take care of your fellow man, be kind to your fellow man, do unto others as you would do, have them do unto you. But when they got into over here, and race became a factor, black and brown people, because you had to come up with a law that put you in control of those people. And that's when chattel slavery, ownership, that's a law. And part of that law was you couldn't read. The black and brown, the black folk that came over that were captured, they weren't allowed to read. They had slaves in here in America before, but the chattel slavery, the law was they couldn't read, they couldn't write, they couldn't speak their own language. All those things
Okay, now
were
was it a
enforced.
law or understood policy?
Oh, these were laws.
It was a law. Okay.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. If you were able to go back into, and you probably don't want to go back in the complexion you currently in, but if you were able to go back into America, you would feel obligated to own a slave, to be the slave, to keep them down based on the rules and the laws. I mean, that was the law of the land. That was
Mm.
the law, just like it was the law to kill indigenous people prior to chattel slavery. So we gonna go move up the timeline here in America. And then after slavery, you got what they call Jim Crow law. That came after 1865. Because slaves got free, but you still got to control them. You still got to control the actions and efforts of black and brown people. So you come up with Jim Crow law. These were laws that were designed to still control the actions and efforts of black and brown people. Things like sharecropping,
Mm-hmm.
convict leasing, charging you for vagrancy, petty theft, looking at white people wrong, walking on the wrong side of the street. All those things were petty laws that were in the Jim Crow era, which did not end until about the 1920s. You know, that's why they could go out in the streets. It was lawful to form a vigilante group and go out and punish a black man if you thought he looked at a white woman. These were the laws. And then you come up to
And
where we
it's
are.
sad. It's sad that
Ooh,
you could go to jail, get beat down because you're looking a man in his face, looking at him in his
that's the
eye.
law. Yeah, you
You
broke the law.
know, I I know I ain't gonna say that. I was about to say I wish that law could be reversed on somebody else, but I'm not gonna say that. You
Well,
know,
like we go again, the controlling authority thought of that law.
mm-hmm.
And in order to maintain control, they put laws in force. And then, like the Jim Crow laws, there's they came about. There's a lady, Michelle Alexander. She wrote the New Jim Crow. That's a book she wrote, and now we in what we call tough on crime law. Tough on
Mm.
crime law really originated with Nixon, but it got heavily enforced by our friend and buddy, Honorable Ronald Reagan. Remember that the war on drugs?
The water
Remember when they
drug?
started the war on drugs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when they came up with that,
Yeah.
that's where you had mass incarceration because even under Jim Crow, the population of the prison population wasn't they wasn't getting no numbers. They started getting those numbers where we see today 1.5 million people locked up. That started in 1980 under what they call the tough on crime. And that's when they really started to tighten up. And that's when you started getting a lot more police brutality, all those things.
Yeah, but with that law though on drugs, they were actually locking up the wrong people because
Oh, well,
the black people they had a rock, you know, which is less dangerous, not as bad as the powder. And it was the white people that had the powder, the cocaine stuff, and that's more powerful and costs more money and all of that. When they get caught with it, slap on the wrist or or just forget about it and stuff like that. But when the black man have this little bit of rock, which is not amount to anything, not that I really know a whole lot about drugs, but the rock is less than the cocaine, but they get these tough penalties. So the law wasn't, they weren't doing right then. That all the white people should have been locked up, for
mm,
the hard stuff, rather than messing with these people who trying to make it with the little stuff.
mm,
So that was
oh,
wrong right there.
well, you just pointed out something that that just now changed. And these are what we call societal attitudes and the moral compass towards law. We look at our good friend Uncle Joe Biden, Hillary and Bill Clinton. During that time period, they really pushed for what three strikes and you're out, all that type stuff. Mass incarceration
Mm-hmm.
really started to turn up. Even though we like our good friend Bill Clinton, he locked up more black and brown people under his administration. Them 8 years he was there, and probably from Reagan on back. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a shift because people would think about the drugs and black and brown people, the ones doing it. Now we already just came out of that Jim Crow era. We got our rights and civil rights and stuff like that. But see, the moral compass changed. The threat, the threat again was how to control black and brown people. Uh, a black person could have a you know, this much cocaine. This is like a candy bar. Okay, this is less than a
Mm-hmm.
couple ounces of cocaine, which is in the powder form, what we call, which not the other form, what we call crack. Well, a Caucasian brother could have a briefcase full of cocaine. I'm talking about maybe 100 of these in a briefcase, and they would get the same sentence. Okay, they would get the same sentence. Matter of fact, they would get less of a sentence for trafficking a briefcase full of cocaine that was probably worth in upwards of $5 or $6 million, where this little vial of this crack cocaine might have had $5,000 street value. So there's a disproportion in when we say the law, who are they made for? White collar, uh, blue collar crime. When you look at it, especially when you look at black and brown people, I was just watching a thing called Bling Bling. Uh, what's that? Bling Bling, the Bling Bling Gang. Now, the Bling Bling Gang is a group of white teenagers that was going around robbing people in Hollywood, and they stole over what $5-6 million worth of stuff. and
Mm.
bragged about it. You know what? Just to show you societal norms, the attitudes, and the moral compass. Those the max time that they gave those people, individuals, about 8 of them. I think one of them did 5 years. The little Oriental lady did 5 years, and the rest of them did less than a year. Okay, they took about $5 million. Now you can look at in black and brown communities. There was a guy stole a light bulb. I think he's still doing time down in Mississippi.
That's
See,
sad.
these are the things. Now we got to look at the justice system. You know, people say, "Well, Drum, the justice system is fair." She's got a blindfold over her head. She don't see color, but she see money today. You know, we look back at OJ. Now OJ got in more trouble, but because OJ Simpson had some money, he could do some things that a lot of folk could not do. But
Mm-hmm.
we see that money don't get you out of crime because R. Kelly and Bill Cosby still went to jail.
Yep.
Change that between the time that OJ, uh, during the time Simpson did his crime, what, about 20 years later, they changed the game. They said money don't count no more.
Mm.
Mm. I mean,
Yeah. So
money don't count.
really, so we'll see. So like these children who get off, for doing crime because it will cause them mental stress, because they have this wealth. So that's
Yeah.
not going to count anymore, huh? You know,
Well, it does
slap
count.
on the
I mean,
wrist for
now
doing stuff
yeah,
because
now
they're
it
going to
doesn't
go to,
count.
huh?
Well, it doesn't count for black and brown people. By the time enough of us get what they call affluent crimes, there's histories uh, of our white counterparts. There was a guy in, I think, Texas or California. He ran over and killed 3 people. Now they said that he had no remorse or no sympathy because he had affluent disorder, meaning that he was so affluent he didn't know the rules of the day. He had not been taught compassion. Now, in the same time, a black or brown person can grow up in the hood, and you can't use that as a defense to say, you know what, Jerome had a history. His daddy was on crack, his mama was on crack, his whole family suffered, so he was not in control of his faculty. Guess what? They're gonna give him the time. They're gonna usually give him the max sentence. But here in America, when we see the disproportion when white people have a problem, we can take crack cocaine and meth. When crack cocaine came out, they locked up more black folk for crack cocaine, and then the numbers just go crazy. But
Mm-hmm.
and that's when they came out with the war on drugs and all this type stuff. But when meth became an issue, it was a medical disorder, and the doctors came out with the doctor robes and prescribed medical uh, advice, rehabilitation, all those things. Becky and Johnny and Karen got all of that, but Jerome and Laquita got what? They got sentenced to jail time, and they just coming out of there, having an ounce of marijuana. Okay, so when we look at the law, the law is set up in certain ways, but again, the law is constantly changing, and it's based on society. When society see that some group is moving ahead, or it doesn't look like they gonna win, they put a law out there. Look at the voting laws. These are laws that say
Mm-hmm.
you can't give people water in the voting line. These are laws. These are laws that are put out and all over the country, uh, you know, to maintain the control and action and efforts of black and brown people.
Yep. And eminent domain is another law that's
Yeah, they can
unequally.
just take your property.
Yeah. And they've taken a lot of black people's property, to make a park or a water hole or a lake or something, just taking their property from them. They take them. A few white people might have gotten their land taken away from them, but majority of
Mhm.
them is black. I mean, look at little
Yeah.
Africa in Alabama. They made a highway right through the little town. Why couldn't they
Wow.
go around or something like that? And look at Lake,
You
what's
can
it?
look at Lake Lanier.
Lake Lanier. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What they did to
Well,
that?
well, I got to say this about our poor white people. One thing about poor white people, when they went out there to take that park up in Oregon, they armed themselves up and they were ready to go to war. They were ready to go to war uh, because black folk just don't have the capability of defending themselves. When they got Lake Lanier, they just flooded the black folk and they just marched them down what we call Peace 3 Industrial now. That was like a trail of tears. But unfortunately, and in New York, when they did Central Park, they just
Mm-hmm.
got rid of those black folk and, they just moved them out. But see, again, the law and who is it for? Who is it for?
Yeah.
As a white American, if I was a white American, I can stand on the law. Man, you don't have the right to do this. It's against the law for you to stop and frisk me. But as a black American, what you think gonna happen? I might get a bullet.
Yeah. They're gonna beat you up and all this other stuff. Cause
Right.
I
I
know
mean,
somebody, he was already handcuffed and they were beating him up and trying his hands was in the back. They beat him up trying to take his hand and put it in the front. He's already
mm,
handcuffed.
wow.
You know,
Wow.
that's I mean, they do that. I mean,
Hmm.
and there was no need to. There was no
Right.
need to. I mean, and this
Uh,
stand your ground thing,
hmm.
I'm looking at Chaka Zulu, what they did to
Okay.
him. From my understanding, he was defending himself. He
Okay.
got shot. He shot somebody else, and they're going to take him to jail, for murder. Stand your ground. That didn't happen with George Zimmerman. I mean, they might have put him in there, but he got out with it.
Right.
you know,
Well.
and that boy was just eating Skittles. You know, he was doing
Well.
nothing. He wasn't doing anything wrong. But Zimmerman, stand your ground. And so I feel like if Chaka Zulu was being robbed and this guy shoot
Hmm.
him, he have the right to shoot back, protecting himself. On top of that, he had the license to carry.
Right.
They're gonna still charge him, and that was wrong. It's
Yeah.
like, who
Well.
are these laws for? It ain't for the black and brown people. If
Well.
they're gonna be treated it differently.
Well. In the case of Shaka Zulu, who's a ludicrous manager, I don't know if those were black folk that shot at him and the one that he killed. I don't know who it was. But again, now you take rich black on poor black crime or rules. Now, Shaka Zulu is out on bail. Now, uh, I don't, whenever that case come forward, once they found out who he was and his lawyers got involved, he didn't have to, just sit in jail like a regular person. Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when money comes into play, there's so many different things. The law. You break a law. One of the reasons why black and brown people, the sentence, the sentences for breaking a crime. You know, they had a ring of people out in, I think that was Jones Creek. They was robbing. That's what they were doing. They was robbing the Target store. Okay, it was just like the
Mm-hmm.
bling bling people out there in California. But at that time, they was robbing the Target stores. They probably stole maybe what, $100,000, $200,000 worth of merchandise. Now, somebody can go into a store and shoplift about $100 worth of items, $200 worth of items. Well, uh, they're gonna be looking at theft by taking and a lot of other things, and they looking at anywhere between 2 to 5 years for punishment. Now, but now look, it's disproportional. The kids, and all of them kids, 17, 21 years old, young people. Uh, but the young people in Jones Creek or Upper Alpharetta get community service. But the young black kids, it's all wrong. Because the law, if you really looked at the law, it said thou shalt not steal. But
Mm-hmm.
because of the moral compass of society, uh, young white people are considered less of a threat. They got a career. You don't want to mess up little Karen's and little Sally's career. But on the South Side, Jamaica and Tyrone stole less than $300, and they're looking at 5 years. And that's because of money. These lawyers that fight for what they call court appointed attorneys, they just getting through the numbers. I don't know how much money they get paid, but just say you got $100 per person. You're not trying to spend all day. If you're getting
Right.
paid as a lawyer, good money, that's the only client you worried about. But some of these guys might have 10 clients. They make them all do a plea bargain. They say, okay, you're looking at 2 to 5, you can plea out, do two with 5 years parole. Now, 2 years to serve and 5 years parole mean you'll never have a meaningful job
Mm.
because
Nope.
your parole guy is gonna always be in your behind, checking you. Whereas the the white person, Sally and Karen and Tom, this is not even on their records. They doing community service. So you can see why the law, if crime is so bad, you know, it should be evenly distributed as far as punishment. There's another lady wrote a book thinking about crime. Thinking about crime, she looked at crime in Finland, uh, Germany, and the United States. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and over the years, all of them was going buck wild. Okay, but their approach to crime was different. In Finland, it went down 60%. In Germany,
Really?
they stayed about equal. In the United States, during the same time period, they went up 60%. That meant they locked up more people. Okay. And amongst those
Mm-hmm.
folks that they locked up, most of them were black and brown people. You look at, we make up what, like 14, 15% of the United States population. And we make up about 60, 70% of the jail people in jail. That's a lot of folk. That's a lot of
It
black and brown
is.
people
And and,
taken
and,
off the
and
street.
and the thing is, I find now I'm not saying that black people don't commit crime. They do.
Oh, everybody commit
Yeah,
crime.
they commit crime, but I don't see them committing as many as white people do.
Well, white people commit more crime, hands
Yeah,
down. But they have, again, because you got the money and the means and the methods, you're capable of being either your case being reviewed by an attorney, or your family being able to post bail. A lot of in Fulton County, they had to close the jail down because most of the folk in there just couldn't pay bail. They just couldn't post bail. And then when
mm.
the city of Atlanta started making it where uh, they did not they got rid of a lot of that. I think that was under Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom. And
Uh-huh.
around, many cities started to now it looked bad. It made them look like they were soft on crime, but these were people that should not have been locked up anyway.
Yeah.
You know, just because they didn't have the money, the means, or the methods to get out of jail. Uh, you got the numbers would not be as high in the black community if the crime matched the sentencing.
Yeah, you're right about that one. Yeah, it definitely don't match, and especially those who being accused of stuff and they didn't do, and they're going
Oh
to
yeah,
jail.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
you're going down.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other things I found is like when you commit a crime, then you lose your right to vote. Okay. So like now with this thing with Trump talking about all these people that illegally voting and stuff, I found
Hmm.
now there's one black woman who um got out of jail. She was cleared to vote. You know, her parole officer, everybody telling her she can vote, right? So she go
Hmm.
vote. They found out that she voted and they lock her up for voting. You know,
Mm.
that's supposed to be an illegal vote, but she was told that she could vote. She didn't know. They told her. But yet and still,
Right.
you know, Trump people, they keep talking about all these people that doing all this illegal voting. Now, the ones they found were Republicans. No,
Mm.
majority of these people they found who voted illegally were Republicans.
If you knew the law wasn't made for you, you break them too. We can take a good. We can take since you brought him up. Uh, and I know people said they're gonna lock him up. They're gonna lock him up. People been talking about they're gonna lock up Hillary for her emails. They're gonna lock up Bill
Yeah.
Clinton. They're gonna lock up this one. Trust me, money, means, and methods keep you out of the jail or prison time. And there's always somebody willing to take one for the team. See, the lower you go on the totem pole, the lower you go on the totem pole of life, the
Mm-hmm.
less chances you have when you break a law. You know, for instance, uh, and we had a question in the chat, you know, like slavery, that was a law. You know, it was a law how white people were to treat black people. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this was a law. You walk down the street, they had to go on the other side. It was a law. You couldn't sit in a what's that, a restaurant. You had to go. It was a law. You had to go to the back door. These were laws. There were laws against women. There was laws that say women couldn't own property. These are laws that were set up, but society moved forward and they decided what? They were going to ease that law or revamp that law. There's laws that were against interracial marriage. Some of them are
Yeah.
still on the books. There are laws against uh, same-sex marriage. Those laws were overturned. Okay, that's the abortion. That's another law, a rule that has been set. So when you look at it, there's laws all over the place. Now the thing is, who suffer? Poor whites, black and brown people. Now black and brown people suffer more than anybody. When you look at the prison
Mm-hmm.
system, you look at the prison system. We look at the American prison system. Uh, it's not rich white people in jail.
Nope.
It's
Nope.
poor
Not at
white folk
all.
in jail. No, I mean the big numbers of white folk that's in jail is poor white people. I always remember. Did you ever see the movie Cool Hand Luke?
No, I didn't see that one. Never heard of it.
Oh man, when you never heard Paul Newman, Cool Hand Luke?
Nope.
Wow. Okay, we got
I've
to
heard
send
of
you that. You
Paul
got to see
Newman, but
Cool.
I've never heard of the movie.
Yeah, that's one of his all-star movies. But anyway, in Cool Hand Luke, the whole population was white people.
Mm-hmm.
It was filmed, I guess, the 30s or the 40s, of might have been, but I think it was like 30s, 40s. It had to be like the 40s or the 50s, because he started doing his stuff in the 50s. But it was about a chain gang of people, and they locked him up for tearing up parking meters, for vandalism. He went to prison. They put him on the chain gang, but he was a poor
Mm-hmm.
white boy. See, when you look at the American history, poor people, you know, have disproportionately served more time for crime. Okay, we look at there's a provision in the upcoming. We talked about the other night in the upcoming election that says should uh, governors and lieutenant governors and people of that nature of that statute be held accountable for the wrongs they did while in office.
Yes, they should be. They should
Well,
be.
a lot of people gonna vote no.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, let's go back to Hillary Clinton. Okay, now they had her going to trial and everything else about. emails.
She didn't go to
Email.
trial. They had a hearing on her.
A hearing. They had
Yeah,
hearings
all
on
they
her.
did was review her. Yeah,
And then people chatting, lock her up, lock her up.
yeah,
My
yeah.
neighbor had a big old banner on his house, lock her up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but yet and still, Trump, and they were talking about, it was security reasons, why they
Yeah,
were doing this hearing on Hillary. But Trump
right.
can take secret papers, files, security files out of the office, down to
But he
Florida.
did. He declassified them. It's a
No,
difference.
he can't do that. He can't.
That's
You
white privilege.
cannot. You can't make up your own rules and regulations. You cannot do that.
Uh-uh.
But yet still,
Yep.
when they went down there to get it, they claimed that the DOJ, the feds, or everybody was wrong for going down there to get those papers.
Yeah. Well,
Why
well,
couldn't?
we see
Why
how they
aren't
flip.
somebody saying lock him up? Everybody should have
Oh,
a poster up, lock him up, lock him up.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Well,
he was wrong. Yeah, but I
again,
guess it's the money that's keeping him away, huh?
the
Keeping him
money,
out of
the
jail.
money. Yeah, you got to have the money. You got to have the means, and you got to know the method. Once you got the money, the means, and you know the method, you don't do what everybody else do. I mean, they say crime don't pay. Crime don't pay. Crime is crime when you can't pay for it. See, it
Mm.
becomes a crime when you don't have the money, the means, or the methods to take care of that. And the average poor white person, or black person, even women, before women went through suffrage and got their rights and could make some money, women couldn't even. It was against the law for a woman to divorce her husband. He could have 15 wives in there. He could do whatever he wanted. She could not leave him. That was a law.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
imagine that?
Yeah. No, not for me. But
Hey,
not for me.
this is
But
a
you know
law.
what? I don't know if it was a law or policy that the man owned a woman.
Oh
He
yeah, ownership.
controlled her.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, well,
no.
well. Look at marriage. Marriage, the document. That's one reason when women livers and women start doing women's rights, they had to change a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A woman was locked into a thing with a man, and the only reason marriage, especially over here in America, was like it was to lock the woman into a position so that she couldn't be with nobody else because there was very few women. Okay, when these colonizers came over, it wasn't a lot of women. They had to bring the women over. They were trying to get slaves over. So guess what? They didn't have enough room to bring all these women. So that's why they were having sex with the indigenous people, sex with slaves, and anybody they could. So what they did, they had to lock the white woman into position. When Columbus and them went on their missed journeys, they didn't bring no women with them.
You know
The
what?
law of marriage.
I think that was more of a power thing,
Oh
having
yeah,
power
control
over
the
the
action and
woman.
efforts. Oh yeah, they control the action and efforts. So they didn't want the woman wandering around doing what they were doing.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a power thing. I can have any woman I want. It's a power
right.
thing, and
Hmm.
women couldn't do anything because they were powerless.
Right.
A lot of them, they were powerless unless they ran away or something like that.
Yeah. Where were they gonna go?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. If they ran too far, they had made the indigenous people so upset and mad that if the white woman escaped from the white man, yeah, it wasn't gonna be a good day for her over there. They had
Right.
something they call them squaws or something. But again, the law, the rules that we follow today. Just look at them. The rich can do stuff that you and I can't do. Okay.
Yeah.
Now there's man's law because I've had people that say, well, Drum, you got man's law and you got God's law. Now the same laws that the indigenous people followed, or the folk in what we call present day Africa followed, was what we call God's law. just simple laws of nature. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Okay, now that's a big law,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't have that law and have slaves.
Nope.
You can't have that law and chain your wife to a ring. You can't have that law and disproportionately lock folk up just so you can get work done in these little broke down communities where you had chain gangs and work details and people work. They was, even when you look at Cool Hand Luke, they were doing that back then with white people, poor white folk.
Mhm.
But they were also doing it with black folk at big numbers. I mean, picking cotton, blueberries, blackberries, whatever they had to do, working in factories, whatever they could do, free labor after slavery. So laws are created uh, to, the nice definition of law is what we said up front. You said a law is a rule of conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized as binding or enforced by a controlling authority. That's some nasty words of controlling authority. That means they want to control you. So a law is specifically made to control the actions and efforts of people.
Like the abortion laws. That's for who to
True.
control? Men.
Action and efforts of women. They want to control women and what they
Yep.
decide to do.
Yep. And that's not going over too well with a lot of people.
Well,
It's not going over
again,
too well.
look at the moral compass again. This is what changes laws. Okay, when the consciousness of the people reach a certain level,
Mm-hmm.
it could be even dealing with gender. When the consciousness of the people reach a certain level, they revamp those laws. When you look at black and brown people, you look at what's happening to a lot of black and brown people now. I see so many videos where young people, and at first, I would be like, man, why don't they just shut up? Why don't they just be quiet and do what the police say? And then I've seen videos of, and I've been in the car with my Caucasian brothers, and I was in the car and I was real quiet. This has been about 5, 10 years ago. My white brother, he said, man, what the blank you stopped me for? This is what he told the police. The police said, hey, the traffic light was out. Well, I can change my light. I'm going to AutoZone in a minute. Get it like, leave me alone. And he kept going. They didn't. Now I was blessed. He didn't shoot in the car. He didn't chase him. You see what I'm saying? Now I don't know what would have happened if I had said something like that. I might not be here tonight.
You're right.
No,
Or you would have
you know,
you would have
and and,
you
and
would have
see
slept
this.
in their home.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I might have. We, as a law-abiding citizen. Oh, I didn't even want to get into what we call maritime law. You know, there's laws of the land. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and even black and brown people that honored or knew the law of the land were treated differently than folk that did not know the law of the land. Okay, you see these people all the time that take a house. I knew a brother that stayed in a house. He's been living in houses over the last 20 years. Never bought a house. He's never officially bought a house in a conventional means. He
Mm-hmm.
follows what they call maritime law or the Moors law. He in a whole different category. Not just him, some others. They have removed themselves and put themselves in. They write their names different, all kind of things. But they don't follow the same rules and regulations that we follow. Now, some of these guys come through what is Masonry, the Masons or whatever. But those guys don't follow the same rules. They don't go by the same law. Even during slavery, uh, some of the people that were black that were successful uh, came out of they were given a particular law based on the owner, or in that case, the owner was their daddy, and their daddy, uh, because he followed the law of the maritime law, he he was obligated to take care of his seed. That meant that anything he fathered. Now, all white people wasn't that nice, but he made sure, even though he couldn't bring that child in the house with his wife, he
Mm-hmm.
was raised like almost white. You ever remember what's that movie? Uh the Zango. And they say, well, how do you want us to treat him? Is he like a white man? They said, no, treat him like such and such. Now, that guy was almost white, and he came with the privileges that white folk had, but he didn't have his privileges were just a little lower than a white woman.
Mm.
And those, if you look at in the South, especially, those people were allowed to have land. Those people were allowed to do certain things, but they still didn't have the same privilege as white men, because the law was created to here in America to protect the actions and efforts of white men.
Yep. Even if they are wrong,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
yeah, even if they are
And
wrong. And I'm thinking about, the land, whereas they're supposed to be, the black people supposed to be getting 40 acres and a mule, but they didn't do that. But yet still they
some
bring
of them got it,
people. Yeah, some did.
and they took it
And
back
but
and burned it and torched it. Did whatever they could. They sold them land in the swamp. They gave them
yeah,
land in the swamp. Say, hey boy, go out here and farm that.
yeah. And I was reading one time what this girl who had this land, they thought it was you couldn't do anything on it. And then
Hmm.
I think there was oil or something they found on it. And then
Wow.
they wanted to take it. You know,
Oh yeah.
they gave her this messed up land, which they thought it was no good. You can't even have a garden in it. When they
Hmm.
found out it was worth something, they wanted to take it from her. That's the kind of people they do. No, and my mind I went from where I was going to go with this.
Well, well, you'll get it. Well, now
Yeah.
think about this: the law. See, there's uh there's laws that even in war, there's a law in war. Uh, when America had the hardest war they ever fought, Civil War, there was rules and regulations of war. Even though they killed each other, maimed each other, all that type of stuff. But when it came down to black and brown people, the treatment of uh, they wasn't like taking any black prisoner in the South. Okay, that was a
Mm-hmm.
law. That was a rule. That was the procedure. Now they would be gentle on the Union troops. Okay, see, there's always some disproportion in the law. You know when you look at they bring people up on war crimes. When you look at all these statutes, if you looked at the law, you follow the law to the letter, you should lock up everybody with the last name and Jackson or those, for war crime. But yet you got statutes of them. You should lock up uh what's his name, General Lee, all those folk up on Stone Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
They should have been locked up for war crime. But again, the law is proportionally handed out to the moral conscience of people, of white people. Once
Yep.
white people say, hey, you know what? It could be anything. Marijuana, now, look, marijuana was illegal, but they call it CBD oil now. And you can suck it up in so many forms. They got gummy bears. It's not in different states. It's not against the law to sit around and get high.
Right.
But
Yeah.
again, the law changed. So the law is always moving, and it's based on society. Now with more black and brown people and minorities and different people, some of the laws going to change. It might not be in our lifetime, but some of the laws that was in the benefit and interest of white males are starting to shift. And that's one of the reasons you got people so angry. That's one of the reasons they went up to the Capitol back on January 6th a couple years ago, about 2 years ago.
Yep. It's been,
Take back
yeah,
our country.
yes, almost 2 years ago. Yeah,
Oh
with them
yeah.
raiding that. All of those people should have gone to jail. You know,
Yeah.
I think
Well,
all of them
hey,
should have, but
again, who's
white privilege.
enforcing the law?
Huh?
If you ask them who's enforcing the law, and you can ask them what law did they break. Now you and
And
I go up in the Capitol unannounced, we going to jail. We're gonna
mm-hmm.
be punished. They're gonna draw up so many charges, entering a Capitol or federal building without a permission. They hit us with so many laws, so many rules. Uh, it's scary. But in those folk case, they didn't do that. They just say, "Hey, come on," uh, and they're not. They all of them gonna get a slap on the wrist. You know,
Yeah, and
and
you know the sad part about it. Trump went through putting his seeds in place. These judges placing all of these judges in place, so when this go down, they can get off the hook.
well, who enforces the law? The judge. Remember when
Yeah,
Flip Wilson used to say, "Here come the judge. Here come the judge. Here come the judge." When the
yeah.
judge comes in, and we even talking about the Supreme Court judges, all the way down to the state judges, the local judges. You know, I think Trump appointed more judges than any president in history.
Mm-hmm. And he's trying
Tuck
to
them
use
in.
them all too.
Oh yeah,
He's trying.
and
He's trying to
yeah,
use
yeah,
them all,
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
but some of them not going in his favor though.
Oh yeah, and in my opinion, he won't go to jail. They'll give him a pardon. You and I
Yeah.
wouldn't get one, but he'll get one.
Yeah, but I think if he demanding for Hillary to go to jail for her
No,
cell
Hillary will never go to
phone,
jail, and he
he
won't go
should
to
go to
jail.
jail for all the stuff
Hey,
that he did, putting a hit on that
hey,
man.
well, they said it.
That's a
Hey, they
crime
say,
right there.
well, in the conspiracy world, they said more people died mysteriously under the Clinton than any other group of presidents or people of power.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Look up Clinton's and deaths related to Bill and Hillary.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that one.
Oh yeah. So America, we love America, but everybody's getting some of it. We just ain't getting it. You know, even with President Obama did some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nobody clean.
Yep, you're right.
Now you and I go to jail because we don't have the money, the means, or the method to get us out of that thing. But they do it all the time.
Yep.
Welcome to America.
Welcome to America. Well, it is time for us to get out of here. Just know, people, that there are rules, laws, policies, and they're not all in your favor. Okay, they have a set of rules, but it's one set of rules for one group of people, another set of rules for another group of people. So don't think rule everything is equal, because it's not. It is not. Even with the gun laws, they say you can have license to carry, but if a black man have license to carry and he's carrying his gun, he's going to get in trouble. Versus a white man can walk down the street with an AKA on his back. He got license to carry, open carry, no problem. Okay, so there is a difference. So there are rules and regulations, but you got to know who you are in order to know. But also, this is the end of the show. Don't forget to register to vote. Okay, it is so important to register to vote and vote. Get out there and vote. And until then, be sure you check out the book. I'm going to get this right one of these days. Power Thoughts, empowering you to succeed in life. You can get it at lulu.com, or you can go to ankproductions.com. So until then, know the law, know your rights, and stay safe. Okay, y'all have a good one.